Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Well, it looks like next year is going to be an interesting year for boxing. In particular, Terrence Crawford is going to have to sort some things out because of him not fighting Spence, which is his right. There have been some interesting things that have happened. Now we know that Spence and Crawford and those negotiations were holding up everyone else in the welterweight division. So now you have Crawford fighting a Vanessian, which it is what it is. Spence and Thurman, although Spence is saying he's not sure who he's fighting next, but more than likely it's going to be Thurman. You got Virgil Ortiz and Amantis Stanionis going to be squaring off. Okay? So you have pretty much, man, the guys at the big top getting it on to determine whether they will or won't get a shot at a title. The only person who really didn't have much information on, although we know that he's training and he has a big fight coming up, or he has a fight date coming up, was Boots Ennis. So now we know Boots Ennis is going to be fighting on the undercard for Tank Davis. It's going to be taking place out there in the DMV area, and I think that's on 7 January, right? So he's going to be fighting, top of the year. And that's an excellent, excellent fight card to be on because Tank is fighting a Dominican killer. But that being said, with Crawford fighting in December, Boots fighting in January, Crawford's going to need an opponent. But this is what's happening. Because these sanctioning bodies are pushing mandatories, right? And forcing champions, it's only two, to fight the mandatories and having guys at the number 1 and number 2 position fight for a shot at the title. That means Virgil Ortiz Jr., who's the number 1 rank for the WBO, he's taken out of the mix as far as getting a shot at the WBO because Virgil Ortiz Jr. is fighting Amantis Stanionis. So that means those two are going to be taken out the mix. And that means Boots Ennis bubbles up to the number 1 spot for the WBO, making him Terrence Crawford's mandatory. Now, the only way Terrence Crawford can negate fighting Boots Ennis is one or two things, right? The first would be to re-enter into negotiations with Earl Spence. And I'll tell you right now, I just don't see that happening. I just don't see it happening. There's just a lot of disappointment. Seems to be a lot of concern, a lot of finger pointing. And at this point, I'm not sure Spence and Spence's team want to dive back into a situation with Crawford, knowing how Crawford just kind of quietly walked away from negotiations and went and did what he wanted to do. Now, that was Crawford's right, but it's just not the reputation you want to have. So now that Crawford probably won't be able to go into negotiations with Spence a second time around, he's going to have to sit there and decide on whether he's going to fight Boots Ennis or vacate that belt. More than likely, Crawford's probably going to defend his belt against Boots Ennis. Now, the problem is this. Crawford's 35, be going on 36. Boots Ennis is a young killer. What's Boots Ennis, like 24, 23? Something like that. So that's going to be, it'll be hard not to favor Crawford because of Crawford's experience and everything he's accomplished. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to not really give Boots Ennis a chance to pull off the upset. Look, Boots Ennis is strong, he's big, he's powerful, and he switch hits like Crawford. He's got a great IQ, and if you follow this channel, you know I always say what makes Terrence Crawford different is he fights with his eyes. His eyes are always open, on the opponent, looking for openings, waiting to expose you. Boots Ennis is the same type fighter. Now, one thing I will tell you, right? Because the young 24-year-old Boots, who's a dangerous young lion, okay? One thing I will tell you, and this is just being fair to all the elite welterweights. Terrence Crawford has shown if you hurt him, he's going to come back stronger, right? Errol Spence has shown if you hurt him, he's going to come back stronger. Keith Thurman has shown if you hurt him, he's going to come back stronger. Virgil Ortiz has shown if you come in there and trying to hurt him and banging him up, he's going to fight back. Stanley Eunice has shown, especially in that fight against Boots here, boy, if you hurt him, you're going to damn near have to kill Stanley Eunice to get him out of there. But he's going to hold his ground. He's going to fight back. Okay? So they've shown what they're made of. You know what I'm saying? Now, I have no doubt that Boots Ennis, if you hurt him, he's going to fight back hard and win. But we haven't seen how he reacts if he gets hurt. And that is what I need to see from Boots Ennis. So we'll see what happens in this fight in January. An opponent for Boots Ennis still hasn't been determined. But I'm just curious to see who they're going to put in there with him. But I know for a fact when he gets in there with Crawford, there's going to be some very interesting moments for him because you got to give Crawford credit. I've seen some people saying, oh, Boots Ennis is going to destroy Crawford. Let's not take it to the stupid, right? Boots Ennis has what it takes to go on and dominate the welterweight division. No doubt about that. At least on paper, he looks the part, right? But what's he going to do in there with arguably the best pound-for-pound fighter? And that's in Terrence Crawford. How's he going to handle that? But these are the moments that make or break a fighter, especially a young fighter, and where you can see a passing of the torch. But for those of you out there who are saying, nah, Spence and his team, they're going to come back, they're going to come to the table, and they're going to renegotiate with Crawford, I'm going to go on record, and I'm going to say I don't think so. I just don't think they're going to do it. I think that it's kind of hard, man, to want to get back, put all the energy and effort into something with a guy like Crawford, who he's marching to his own beat now, okay? And he's going to do what he wants. And we're going to see how this thing goes with him and BLK Prime. And now they have a partnership and one-off deals. And if everything works out and they get to 8 figures and he and his team are happy and he wants to go into a second fight with those guys and, then PBC doesn't want to deal with that crap, the fight will never happen. But my concern is this. Crawford fighting Ennis, if he beats him, then we're going to have to see where he's at in his career. We're going to have to see what's going on with Spence, because Spence has to fight Thurman. If Spence beats Thurman, then he has to fight the winner of Stanley Eunice and Ortiz. And, those guys, they're not taking no damn step-aside fee. Like, the whole step-aside thing for Errol Spence, that's over, okay? The ship has sailed. There's no more paying anybody step-aside money. Now, don't get me wrong. If somebody's going to get $10 million, yeah, they're going to take that $10 million and be like, I could care less what Spence does. They probably care less about fighting ever again if they get that kind of money. But that's kind of what it's going to have to take to get a guy like Ortiz, get a guy like Stanley Eunice to move out the way to try to allow the negotiations between Spence and Crawford to take place again. So when you look at next year with Spence fighting early in the year and then having to fight again towards the middle or third quarter, it just makes it impossible to see Crawford and Spence fighting at all if they're successful with their defenses. Like 2023 is out the window. So for those of you out there who are saying now it'll still happen, I'm telling you it's not going to happen. All right, y'all could save this video that I'm making, and we'll come back to it. Crawford and Spence, man, I'm telling you that ship has sailed, and the WBO, and then you got Boots Ennis and his dad. And the fans, I mean, everyone's pushing to get these guys in the ring and get shots at these titles. So Virgil Ortiz, Stanley Eunice, Ennis, no one's really pushing for Thurman. But those other three names, hey, they're there. And, and they're getting their opportunities. So that being said, what we could see happen next year, and this isn't far-fetched, this isn't something that is an absurd idea. What we could see happen next year is, as far as where the WBC, the WBA, the WBO, all these titles that are being held, Spence has 3, Crawford has 1, where we're seeing these titles being held, what we could see happening is that Spence nor Crawford has any titles. The titles will be with all new faces. And how interesting will that be? But that being said, we'll see what happens, man. At the end of the day, money talks, BS walks. I do think the Spence Crawford fight is probably bigger than ever now, but I just don't see it happening. It's just, with everything that I know now, after taking time to really get out here and do my research, because it's one thing to listen to the videos of people talk and read Twitter posts, but when you go out here to reliable sources, man, and you do your due diligence and you get spun up on things, I'm going to tell you right now, I just can't see anyone wanting to sit down at the negotiation table with Crawford anymore. He's high risk. And, he's a guy who marches to the beat of his own drum now. And that's great for him. But I think he hurt the sport of boxing by, not making this Spence fight. But I get it. And for those of you out there who are saying, oh, well, Spence and those guys are dragging out negotiations and X, Y, and Z. Look, man, from what I understand, they were trying to make that fight starting from last year. And as they were getting close and the plans for the promotion and everything, Crawford kept coming up with these different things, from left field. And, it took time for those guys to get back to him on the first go-round. Then the second go-round, he wanted all the transparency and to make sure, whatever he was supposed to be getting on the back end was going to match up to the total revenue or profits, all kind of craziness, man, which is his right, but it was just, one request after the next, which was just delaying things. And when he's having those requests, it's kind of hard to push forward and put things in place the way they want it, because they had to make sure they have everything finalized and everything in place. And when they felt they did have venues sourced and everything else. They had like 3. They had, they had everything in place, man. But Crawford just got tired of waiting, and it is what it is. So as a result, we may not have any fight at all between Crawford and Spence, and that's just the reality. But the good thing is, if it works out the way I hope, at least we'll see Crawford fight Boots Ennis. If we don't see it, that's because Crawford either lost or he decided to vacate the belt and move up to 154. But that being said, more to come. But this is the direction things are going for Crawford. That being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, everyone from all 7 continents. And I am in the breeze.